Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
We'll get right to it. The Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call from Wednesday afternoon is when it was recorded. We started with the Congressman talking about the State of the Union from Tuesday night.
What I wanted to start with today and this week is to kind of reinforce the message that I heard from the President in regards to the State of the Union, the fundamental position and description that America is strong. You look at the economy that is soaring. You're looking at unemployment for 11 consecutive months at 4% or below unemployment rate. You're seeing wages increase 3.2% over the past 12 months, 5.3 million jobs being created. These are huge opportunities when it comes to domestic policy that has resulted in this great economy boom that we're seeing. And then on the foreign affairs side, for the president to be able to rightfully claim, that we've engaged in North Korea. We are not in any type of protracted war position with deep entanglements of tens of thousands of troops being engaged in military conflict across the country, across the world. These are all signs that the root of the nation, the core of the nation, is strong. And I really did appreciate the president's call for us to make that fundamental decision as legislators. Are we going to learn the lessons of the American heroes that he told the stories of yesterday, the ones that were there defeating Nazism, defeating with our military engagements those heroes and children that were saved from the concentration camps that were on display last night. When you saw the lessons learned and taught by Buzz Aldrin and the great scientific achievement that leaders of yesterday were able to position America to accomplish, I really heard his call to say, what are we going to do as legislators today to make the right decisions together as Democrats and Republicans to put the country in a position of great prosperity for generations to come. And I'll tell you, that's why I'm committed to the Problem Solvers Caucus, recommitted to finding that area of common ground that I know is here in Washington, D.C., but because of extreme radical politics, pulling the parties to the hard right and the hard left, we just can't get there. And where politics, and gotcha politics in particular, seems to be the culture of Washington, at the end of the day, if we don't find that common ground, if we don't work and heed that call that has made America great for generations and make the decisions today as elected officials to position America to continue to grow and prosper and be that shining beacon on the hill of light for the entire world, and then we're going to fail in our endeavor. And that is where, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to stand up, to be the leaders that answer this generation's call and solve these problems for the American people. Because if we stay in this continuous partisan gridlock position, the people that lose are truly the American people, and that is not something I will accept as an elected official for the 23rd Congressional District, and do my part and make sure that I'm leading on our side through the Problem Solvers Caucus and elsewhere to solve these problems that impact Americans not only today, but future Americans that aren't even here on the face of the earth. So that being said, I just wanted to reinforce the message I heard last night, the commitment I've made last night and this morning to roll up my sleeves and to continue to try to find that common ground that gives us huge solutions for the future of America's greatness. So that being said, let's open it up to questions.
Carver?
Hi, Congressman. How quickly after the speech last night and all the headlines die down from that, do we get back to the possible shutdown? How worried are you that you can't find that common ground and that we may face another shutdown?
Well, obviously, that's a reality that we have to recognize, given the track record of Congress to date. But I'm very hopeful. Even last night, as the conversation was had about border security, what was articulated in regards to the president's position is not extreme, is not immoral. What he's talking about and what I believe the compromise position should be and would likely be if members were able to just lead and follow the substance of what needs to be done is $5.7 billion of border security investments. That means you're going to have a barrier in part. You're going to have people deployed in part. You're going to have our ports of entry reinforced. And it's all designed to keep America safe, to go after the bad guys, such as the human traffickers, the drug traffickers, and those that want to do us harm here on American soil. So I think the opportunity is there. Obviously, the clock is ticking, and I just hope these negotiators stay in a room, follow the lead of adults that want to solve this problem, and get it done once and for all.
All right, Matt Hummel. Congressman, how are you?
Doing well, Matt. How you doing?
Hey, not too bad, thank you, sir. Just listening, following the address last night, there were a bunch of political pundits that commented about how they thought that the president could talk more about the opioid crisis and the infrastructure problems that the country is facing. But everything's over now in regards to the address. So what can you do, and what can the president do to improve the opioid situation and the infrastructure situation, both for the country itself and for our district specifically?
Well, obviously on the opioid front, we've already made great strides in regards to bipartisan legislation that's been signed into law. We've seen those resources and prioritization of funds on top of the people and the facilities and programs that have been extended there start to see success and bear fruit. And so we'll continue to build off of that success going forward. But that is something where I think we've made great strides, and we'll continue to improve as we see the needs come into focus. When it comes to infrastructure, I think there's a huge opportunity for common ground. Huge opportunity as everyone recognizes the problem. Everybody wants to fix the problem. And I think there's an appetite here in Washington to do this. And this could be one of those areas that we start changing the culture and working together to come up with a solution. We in the Problem Solvers Caucus put together a proposal where we agreed, got to our 75% consensus position to vote as a bloc to support an infrastructure package that would do exactly what the president's calling upon. So hopefully folks will see what the work we've done, and we'll continue to get folks to buy into that work, and we will then move to hopefully a solution that can get implemented into law. The other area that I do see fruit that we were just talking in the Ways and Means Committee about is the issue of healthcare costs and attacking healthcare costs, in particular drug prices, and how to potentially bring transparency and to use not only government regulatory reforms, but also legislative fixes through Congress that can get these drug prices going down, as well as other healthcare costs going in the right direction, and that's become lower and lower for every American that's out there.
All right. Lucas Day.
Hi, Congressman. How are you?
I'm doing well, Lucas.
Great. Congressman, I just wanted to get your thoughts in terms of, did you get any feedback, hear any feedback yet from Democrats regarding the President's State of the Union last night? It looks like it was well received by the general public, according to some poll numbers. But what's the feedback been from Democrats, maybe members of the Problem Solvers Caucus, on the State of the Union?
Well, as I sat in the middle of the chamber with Problem Solvers Caucus members, as well as on the Democratic side of the aisle, I think there was a pleasant. It was pleasantly received from my perspective as to many of the issues that he was highlighting, many of the issues that he was trying to forge common ground with. And I think still, though, there's some that are going to miss the opportunity and just go back to their camps because that's the status quo. That's where they feel comfortable. But I think the silent majority of members are starting to say enough is enough and join with us. We say it's time. It's time for us to come together, and rather than waste these 2 years of fighting let's set down our arms and come together as American citizens to go forward. That's just the general gist I heard from the members I was sitting with and talked with. And these are good, practical, proud Republicans, proud Democrats that recognize that the best work we do is the work we do together.
Rick Miller?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Jason Jordan?
Hey there, Congressman. How you doing today?
Doing well, Jason. How you doing?
Oh, not bad. You cited the Problem Solvers Caucus as a way out of this partisan mess. Post-election, can you tell me how many members there are?
Yeah, so we're reconstituting as we speak. We're going to be right in that 2024 type of range where we were before. As we start the new congressional session, start off, that's 20 on each side. To 24, and it's continuing to grow. So, and what we're doing is taking our time with the members coming in, because it's not so necessarily the number per se. Obviously, the more, the better. But what we want and make sure that we have in this group are folks that are committed to our bylaws, committed to each other for that culture of trust. And I will tell you, that's going to allow us to become a mile deep rather than an inch wide when it comes to taking on the necessary battles to change the culture of D.C.
Okay, and are there any new members you have your eye on that you would like to join?
So what we do is we don't identify the members per se. We allow members to self-identify their involvement in the Problem Solvers Caucus. And let's just say there's numerous new members that are joining that we've been talking to and that we've been talking to over the election cycle prior to coming to Congress. That are going to be great assets that join the caucus. And remember, this caucus isn't something that you can just unilaterally join. You have to go through, stand before the members. You got to be invited to the caucus, and you have to show a level of commitment up front where you look members in the eye and honor the commitments of respect, integrity, and trust that we build ourselves off of, and also gives us that relationship that I think is so in need here in D.C., where we actually get to know each other personally, and really have an honest conversation about where we need to go together as a country.
Can you detail the process? How do you meet? Are you literally getting all the members in a room? Are you playing email tag? How does it work?
So we have a general meeting every week. We're here in session. Last week we had the head of the legislative affairs for the White House come and address us. We're having Steve Mnuchin again come visit the caucus this week. And so we have a slate of folks that we invite. I know Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi have committed to come to the caucus as we schedule them in. And so it's a regular meeting, but at the same time, we do a lot of virtual meetings and communication, and we do a lot of ad hoc meetings late at night, often. After all the dinners and events are done, we come back and really sit down and spend hours together going through the different substantive issues that are out there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Going to take a quick break here on the Newsmaker show, then we'll check the forecast back after this with Congressman Tom Reed in his weekly press call. The next question is from Jamestown.
This is a special announcement for all Americans who owe back taxes to the IRS or state. Pay attention, there's a special toll-free hotline set up especially for you. This hotline will give you free information on how you can legally reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call the taxpayer hotline today at 800-459-1725. Grab a pen or put the number in your cell phone, 800-459-1725. You'll speak with qualified professionals who tell you how to stop the collection calls, IRS letters, bank levies, and wage garnishments, and they'll deal directly with the IRS on your behalf so you don't have to. Even if you haven't filed returns or you are already in a payment plan, you can still get relief. New IRS settlement policies have opened the doors for a fresh start. But hurry, this won't last forever, and your tax problem will only get worse if you do nothing or try to handle it yourself. It makes a big difference in who you call. So call the taxpayer hotline today for free information. 800-459-1725. 800-459-1725.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Rob, what's going on in Wellsville this morning?
Well, Brian, the warm front has crossed and moved north of Wellsville. How do I know this? Well, they have a temperature of 42 this morning in Wellsville, a dew point of 42, while Dansville has a temperature of 32 and a dew point of 30. The wind at Dansville right now out of the northwest at 5 miles an hour. Right now, Wellsville, it's out of the southwest, so it tells me the front is right in between those two locations. Good news is the warm front's going to lift northward. Once you get down to central and western Pennsylvania this morning, it's in the mid and upper 40s, and that air is going to be pushing towards us as the day goes on. Sunrise this morning occurred at 7:16. It sets tonight at 5:33. We'll have cloudy skies. Watch for some patchy fog out there this morning. The rain will be the issue this afternoon, 50 to 55. Cold front comes in from the west tonight. The rain will end as some wet snow, breezy. Lows tonight, 30 to 35. We start getting into much colder air tomorrow. Lots of clouds, breezy. Could see a snow shower or flurry during the day, 35 to 40. Mostly cloudy, breezy, cold tomorrow night, 10 to 15. Clouds, some sun developing Saturday, breezy and chilly, Brian. High Saturday afternoon, 25 to 30. We're partly sunny, still chilly on Sunday.
Back with Corning Republican Congressman Tom Reed. Next question up is from Chautauqua County reporter Dave Raleigh.
Just kind of picking up on the Problem Solvers Caucus, do you see the caucus playing a role between now and possibly the deadline for this next possible shutdown?
So I do. We've been working with the White House. As you know, we were the only bipartisan group of members, Republicans and Democrats, that went to the White House, sat with the president and vice president for an hour and a half, discussing the issue of border security and in communications with each other. I think there's a parameters of a position that a working group has been really focusing on when it comes to border security in this potential shutdown situation on the 15th. And so I think through those conversations, it allows us to not only advocate amongst ourselves as Problem Solvers Caucus members, but also outside the caucus with fellow Democrats and Republicans to try to get folks to come to a more practical position and avert any type of shutdown.
Okay, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Eric from the Post-Journal.
Hi, Tom. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Eric. How you doing?
All right, thanks. Well, I hear you're pretty positive about Trump's State of the Union last night, so I just want to ask about some of the more things that kind of came off as extreme yesterday. I guess the one thing that stood out in my mind the most was when he said that if he wasn't president, we'd be in a war with North Korea right now. I was just wondering, what was your response to that statement, and were there any other statements last night that kind of made you have a double take?
Well, I appreciate the president's comment. In regards to North Korea, I do recognize, just speaking for myself, that it's more than just him as president that averted a military conflict in North Korea to date. But without his leadership and without his willingness to be, as our commander-in-chief, in a position to engage with Kim Jong-un the way that he has, I think we may be in a different outcome. I just look at it, though, as it's more than just one person. It is a combination of things where this has been successful. Obviously, there's still a lot of division, and there's a lot of polarization that's represented in the speech, where Democrats and Republicans just couldn't find that common ground. But I was also disappointed in the opportunities where the Democratic side had opportunities to step up and kind of take on their extremism on their left. When the president articulated, "We will not ever become a socialist nation," I was concerned that the Democratic caucus, to a large degree, did not stand or applaud, rather sat silently rather than stand in opposition and join the president in becoming a socialist country. And that just shows me that there is some extremism that is on side that's represented by that philosophy that will need to be stood up to, and that we will need to engage in a vigorous debate to make sure we don't go down that path going forward.
Mm. Well, I guess now that you bring that up, that does lead me to a follow-up question, because I think maybe perhaps a lot of Democrats didn't stand up and applaud because he called it socialism, and even you yourself have correctly called it democratic socialism, which is more so what some Democrats leaning more towards the left are advocating for, and there is a pretty big gap between socialism and democratic socialism. So do you think that's attributable to why more Democrats didn't applaud for him when he said that?
Well, as I hear the underpinnings of democratic socialism, let's make no mistake about it. It is a form of socialism that would change and transform America's future in a way where government would become the tool of power rather than the power of the people being the engine that moves the country and delivers the country into a better place. And so, that parsing, if you would, that folks are playing with the word democratic socialism and socialism is still concerning. But obviously, the more we can bring Democratic members to a reasonable position and recognize that there is a role for government, but it cannot be the sole source of power in an American society that has done so well, being based on individual freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything else that stuck out in your mind last night about his speech? It was a good long one, and he covered a lot of ground.
He covered a lot of ground, and there was a lot to rightfully take credit for. The other thing that I really did appreciate was, he told a story through some people that sometimes we forget that when we're engaged in these fights, we forget that there are real people in America and across the world that are impacted by what America does. And I will tell you that those stories are very, to me, remind me that we can never lose sight of who we work for, and that's the people we represent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. That's one of my favorite State of the Union traditions, that they highlight some individuals, and I'm glad that he continued to do that last night.
It was good.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that wraps it up. That's all we have for today.
All right, guys, I so appreciate it. I'm right in the middle of votes. I really appreciate your understanding today. So thanks so much, and we'll talk next week. Take care.
So that's a wrap for the Congressman Tom Reed weekly press call for today. Today's Thursday, February 7th. Congressman Tom Reed's press call was recorded Wednesday, February 6th at 1:30 in the afternoon. Went from about 1:30 to 1:50. I'm Brian O'Neill. Brian Kilmeade is next on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.